Now, unlike some people, I spray individual components and then assemble. Others assemble and spray a sort of an almost complete car. There's a lot of pieces to spray up. I've just started on the guards. This is using acrylic, of course, straight off the gun, 7 coats. Now, I'm not terribly worried about the finish off the gun, mainly because I'm going to flat that back with, starting with 800. But it's good to actually get a reasonable finish, so you're actually finding less to correct. It's provided a good coverage. Of course, I also spray inside the guards as well. Now, at the moment I've got two guards up. It takes quite some time to go through and spray 7 coats. So rather than fill the garage full of parts trying to spray it all at once, I've decided just to put 2 coat racks up and hang parts, spray them, and then put them away to harden. So these are starting to dry off. I probably won't move them for another probably 24 hours, and then I'll store them away in another part of the garage. Garage gets quite warm, up to 50 degrees, seeing it's summer. So they'll gradually harden up, and when I'm ready I'll start rubbing them back. At this stage it's got a pretty good finish. There's not much waviness in the panel that I can see, but certainly when I get down to rubbing them back and starting to polish them, that's when you'll actually see any minor imperfections. Professional spray painters have the benefit of a dedicated booth. Amateurs, of course, have to make do with driveways or workshops. I do it in the workshop. The paint mixing is done on the workbench. Spray guns hanging up out of the way. I've just been continuing the spraying of the Consort, just using the spraying some Old English white. This is my spray gun, or my colour gun. It's got a pressure gauge on it. This is a high efficiency transfer gun, 25 at the gun, 60 at the up at the regulator up there. It tends to put most of the paint on the item you're spraying rather than in the air, so there's not a lot of overspray flying around in the garage. This is the Old English white. It was an interesting time getting this mixed. I go down to my local paint shop, ask for acrylic. Of course, that's what I spray. The not quite blank looks. I mean, they know what acrylic is. They don't have a great market for it anymore, except for amateurs. Asked for Old English white. Of course, the fellow was 30 years of age, didn't really know what I was talking about, but did advise me that colour charts for acrylics, the older colours, are no longer available, certainly in that paint shop. I managed to find a range of Old English whites on the computer though. I picked one that was marked Jaguar, so this is close to what I was after. It's I tried to explain to him, it's a creamy white. It's coming up quite nice, 7 coats. I've used, in terms of paint, just spraying, what have I sprayed? 2 sides here, right and left. Little front section that goes near the radiator. I almost forgot to mask off the top, that's meant to be black on the top. Those 7 coats on the outside, 3 coats on the inside, has taken Now I had 2 litres of paint in this, so it's taken almost 2 litres of paint to spray that. I sprayed the top of the bonnet yesterday. That took, for the 2 halves of the bonnet, that took a little bit more than 2 litres of paint. So there's a lot of paint going on the steel, which is what I wanted, and I'll flatten that obviously when it's dry. So I'll continue with this. The reason I wanted to spray some of the white, 2 reasons. One, I had panels ready to spray, and 2, I want to actually start masking up the body. I want to spray the body and get it back on the chassis, so I need to have, you know, white masked, white on the bottom, black on the top. So I'll mask that up ready to spray next. I just wanted to see what the Old English white was like, the mix that I had, and I'm actually quite pleased with it. It's a nice cream and it should look beautiful against the black. Now I started painting the body. In fact, I've put the Old English white on the lower part, and I've just masked that up. You can see there just on the front here, all this is Old English white. That's all done. There's 7 coats on that. The bulkhead here, I've decided I'll actually paint silver, so that's not white, and of course the top half is to be black. Now I've masked that off ready to do the black. Unfortunately it's just a bit too warm at the moment. You know, I usually spray in a band between 20 and 30 degrees Celsius. At the moment in the garage it's already 32 at 10 o'clock in the morning, so it's a bit too warm. I need to start a bit earlier, so I might have to wait a few days looking at the weather forecast before I can spray the top half of the car. Now unfortunately, to get to the top half of the car, you can see I've got some trestles here with high boards on them. Now I need to be able to get to that height to do the roof properly, so it just becomes a bit of a planning exercise to work out how to actually spray to make sure you get good coverage across the top of the roof and don't end up with a band in the middle where you obviously can't spray the whole roof from one side of the car. So I need to start on one side, work my way across, then switch sides, and then continue from the centre to the outside to make sure I don't leave any banding on the centre of the roof line. So I've got trestles both sides. You can see the trestle on the other side. I'll probably start at the front, do some cutting in around the gutters and obviously this pillar piece, then start on the roof. When I finish the roof, then I'll come down over the back of the car and do the back. So I've got to remove the trestles. Now bearing in mind I've got 7 coats to go on, these trestles are going to be moved in and out 7 times, so there's quite a lot of work to do. It takes about, well, just with 2 panels, or actually just with this bottom section here, it takes a spraying session all up of around 2 hours by the time you set things up, get your paints ready, allow drying time between coats and clean up. So the body itself, the top half of the body, will take at least 2.5 hours to do the 7 coats, including probably the clean-up. So you've got to allow enough time for these things to be done. So at this stage, just waiting for the temperatures to be right for spraying. But the Old English white went on good onto the body. It will be good to get the body in colour. Now I don't intend to flatten this off yet. I'll let it harden up for probably about a month, but it'll be good to get it in colour, so it'll be certainly something to look forward to. Well, I've finished spraying the body. You see the Old English white on the bottom, black on the top. I've decided on silver for the firewall. That's an enamel. That's come up alright. The paint job took me, just for the top, took 3 hours. Mainly because it's just awkward to get to the top of the vehicle. I have my trestles here and standing up the top. You can only do half the roof at the time. Very awkward. I mean, I don't have a lot of space left in the garage with all the cars I've got in here. So it made it a bit difficult moving around the vehicle to get it sprayed. The other problem I had is the temperature, and because it was over a 3-hour period, the temperature actually rose to about 30 degrees halfway through the spraying session, so it wasn't ideal for spraying in the end. The paint has dried a bit quick. So the actual finish off the gun is not as good as it would have been had it been a bit cooler. I'm hoping that that will come up alright when I rub it back, because I rub it back anyway, so I'm not after a finish off the gun. It just means it's a lot easier in the rubbing back process. But at this stage I'll let that harden for at least a week, maybe a week and a half before I rub it back. Temperature for the next week, 40 degrees tomorrow, be high 30s for probably the next week, so it should be fine just to sit here, dry off, let the paint cure before I start to rub it back. I've decided I'll rub it back prior to putting it back on the chassis, just in case I have to touch it up a bit more in places where perhaps the paint has dried too much and I have to rub it down more. So this stage, you can see there's a bit of dust over the white there. This stage it's looking reasonable. It'll look a lot better once the paint is buffed up. Just finished spraying the tops of the two of the doors anyway. Driver's front, passenger rear. Just the way it turned out in terms of what was ready to spray. Masked off the bottom. That's all got to be done in white. Hasn't been done yet. Just got the top done. It's come up reasonably well. Temperature today is around, let's have a look at the thermometer in the corner of the garage. So it says it's, remove that, 26.4 in the garage, 26 outside. Temperatures best suited to spraying acrylic that I've found is around about this temperature. Not too close to 20 and certainly not too close to 30. So mid-20s is ideal. A bit hard to pick that when you're in the middle of, or sort of the latter part of summer in Australia. We've had temperatures ranging from 20 to 37, so it's all over the place, but I've had a couple of days where the temperature's been down a bit, so I thought I'd make the most of it and spray at least this part of the doors. Not too sure what tomorrow's temperature will be. It's probably a bit high, maybe a couple of days time it'll come down, and then I'll finish the bottom half. As I've said before, the finish off the gun is better when the temperature is not too hot. This shouldn't take a lot to rub back and prepare for polish. So a little bit of orange peel, because I've really layered it on fairly thick, 7 coats, so but it's looking good at this stage. Just been spraying the front guard. It's an awkward one to spray because of all the curves. It's hard to get the gun around it. So I ended up putting it on its side and trying to spray it that way. But even then, it's very hard to get in around the headlight and the little side light. But it's come up all right. There's a lot of paint on there. Once again, close to 2 litres of paint. That's just on the outside. Of course, I've also painted the inside. I did that yesterday or the other day. Always paint inside and outside all around. The finish is reasonable. As I've said before, I've got to cut it back anyway, but it's a good starting point. So I know I can spray them on their side, so I'll now proceed to doing the other guard, and that'll be a good project finished.